Alrighty, we've got our tank set up, we've got our light set up, everything's ready to go. Now we can start preparing the tank for water. Before we do anything else, I want to come back to the light to make sure it's always unplugged from the power when we take off our tray, just as an extra safety precaution. So we're going to take off our farming tray, add that underneath this one for now, and we're going to prepare our tank for water circulation. In your kit you'll find two clear tubes. One's shorter and a bit wider, and one's longer and a bit shorter. For this one you will need your shorter, wider one, because we're going to use that one to attach your pump, your water pump, to your undergravel filter. There's two ways to activate your undergravel filtration, with a water pump or an air pump, and we'll discuss both, because some of you have an air pump and some of you have a water pump, for starters. In the next couple of weeks we'll make sure that you all have an air pump and a water pump, which you'll be utilizing in your program. I've boiled myself some hot water, so not for tea, but to actually use this while setting up my pump. If we dip our little hose in a cup of hot water, it will actually become much more flexible and much easier to apply. So I'll keep that in there for 3 seconds. 21, 22, 23. And in your box you would have found a small pump. And basically a pump has an inlet and an outlet. We want to attach this piece of hose to the bottom outlet of your pump. And when it's nice and warm, it's flexible, it will be easy to attach to the bottom of your pump. Now, we'll do the other end, so we'll add it back into the cup, give it a couple of seconds, 21, 22, 23, and here we go. Now, on your undergravel filter there's a wider pipe and a shorter pipe, so we're going to attach this to the wider pipe of your undergravel filter without pulling it out. It's a bit fiddly, but there we go. Slides on and push it down. There we go. That's your pump attached to your undergravel filter. It will now start with pulling your water from underneath your gravel through the pump. I will actually make the water circulate in the tank really nicely. Make sure it's in this left back corner so it doesn't sit in the way of your tray of microgreens. Let's just double check if everything's installed correctly so it's not in the way. Okay, everything fits and the water points out towards the front of the tank, which is what we've been aiming to do here. Beautiful. That's how to set up your water pump. I'll also show you how to do the same thing if you have an air pump. So we'll take out that piece. And you've also been supplied a piece of longer and clear tube, which is airline. And same thing here. We're going to go to our hot water, dip it in for 3 seconds, 21, 22, 23. And now we're going to attach this part to the thinner end of your undergravel filter. So this is sometimes a bit tricky, but you just gotta fiddle it around. If it's not flexible enough, we'll just put it a bit longer. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And let it get nice and flexible. This is how plumbers do it, so you're learning the tricks of the trade here. Back onto the... And there we go. Attached to your undergravel filter, which will do exactly the same. However, now the air will go into one tube and circulate that air underneath the gravel, and we'll make sure that water is coming out from the other tube and actually circulates the water in your tank this way. The other end needs to be connected to your air pump. So there's different air pumps and different kits. Most of states that are not Victoria would have received a double air pump, so you can connect this to one end of the double air pump. which you can install underneath. In this case, I've actually got a single outlet air pump, which is driven by a USB outlet. So we'll attach this to the other end of the air pump. And this pump comes with a nice bracket to attach it to a higher point. So this is where the bow line will come in nicely again, because we can actually attach our little air pump to our bow line and have it sit next to our light. I'm going to untwist this cable tie. We're all about reusing here, so we're going to actually reuse it a bit later on once we've installed our heater. Now the air pump is attached. We've shown you how the water pump works. There's one more element. We're going into winter, so because we're going to keep tropical fish, it's important for the growth of our microgreens as well, that the water is at 24 to 25 degrees Celsius. So we've added a small water heater in your box. So once that comes out of its carton. Carton is a great addition to your compost, by the way, so don't let it go to waste. It's a small heater. It's made of glass, so be very careful with it. Try not to drop it, otherwise it will break very easily. There's a purple dial on top of it. I will show you on the side what type of temperature it's set for. So on the left you get degrees Celsius, on the right you get degrees Fahrenheit, but let's focus on the Celsius now. It's set at 24, so I might bring it up to like halfway the 26 mark, and then we'll add it to the tank. So remember that your pump is going to sit here, it's going to flow the water in the tank, so probably don't want to have it too close, but close enough. I probably, in my personal opinion, want to add it right where the post is, so you don't see the post from that end. Once your heater is attached, just make sure that you never put the heater into the power when your tank is not filled with water, because it will heat up and shatter. So always make sure your tank is filled with water when applying the heater. Never take it out of the aquarium while it's still plugged into the power. I think a safe rule to have at home and with the kids is from the moment you're going to enter the tank, it's always best to turn off the power from the switch until you're done, and put everything back into place where it was. Beautiful. So that's all our wiring in place here. We've had these two cable ties that came with the heater and with your air pump. So now the air line and the cables from your lights can all kind of twist it nicely together and reuse the cable tie to actually create some order in your system. One at the top and one at the bottom, nice and tight and safe. That's how we like it. Beautiful. So your air supply is set up, your heater is set up, your undergravel filtration is set up. We can now start filling the tank with water. You're going to need about 30 liters of water. If you're using a watering can, make sure it's rinsed properly, or repurpose a watering can. Use some baking soda and hot water to give it a rinse, and then only use the watering can for your farm hole. I prepared some water here earlier. This is just tap water. When we pour it in, we want to pour it in very slowly. I personally like to use the driftwood. Then we're not actually pouring the water straight into the gravel, and it will be spread nice and evenly by splashing off the driftwood. So there we go. This is the first watering can, and you can see the water is relatively clear because we gave the gravel a good wash at the start. Don't try to rush this, take your time. The tank will eventually fill up, and you'll need about 3 watering cans. I can already see my driftwood is starting to float, so I could have avoided this by soaking my driftwood in hot water for a little while. We're all here to make mistakes and learn from each other. Now you can see why it's probably best to soak your driftwood at the start. I'm still using it at this stage to make sure that my water distributes nicely and evenly. Watering can number 1. Number 2. There we go. That's about 25 liters of water that went in there at the moment. So, very important that we don't overfill our farm hole. So I'm going to add the tray back to the top. I'm actually going to take my chalk marker to make a mark. The mark has to be about 1/2 centimeter below the black tray. We never want the water touching the tray, because that will lead to your roots rotting. So we always want to have a nice layer of air in between the tray and the water. So I'm leaving the tray in there now so that we can, I'll actually take it out again because we've marked it. On a second thought, it's my 3rd watering can now. So I'm going to bring the water up to that exact line. There we go. It's about 25-26 liters of water. It's a good reference point. Our driftwood is going to float for a little bit, but if we're patient, overnight it will sink to the bottom, and tomorrow morning we can reposition it where it was before. Alright, everything's attached, water is in, and we can actually put our drip tray back. This is how the system will look like filled with water. It's relatively clear, and we can see our FOMO logo in the back. There it is. So yeah, it looks pretty ready to me. Just to give you an idea on how it looks like once you start growing. I prepared a tray of pea shoots for you earlier. Only took a week to grow, but let's say if we add our pea shoots now, you'll start getting an idea how your system looks like once it's all set up. Cool. That's that. Now everything is connected. We've dropped it all down, and in the next session I'm going to talk you through setting up your Wi-Fi power board and actually plugging it all in and testing if everything works. So see you soon.